Hi, everyone. Kate Byers, founder of the Good Life Institute and creator of Corporate Women Unleashed. We are in our second series this month of talking about the 3 career mistakes that is costing us high achieving, ambitious women time, money, and freedom. So let's dig in. All right. The second career mistake we're making is that our identity is tied to our career. I know. Look, and this happens to guys too, right? When you are ambitious and when you're hyper successful, you love to work. Like I love to work. I really do. It's not work that's a problem. It's just controlling it so that I'm working when I want to work and, having time to go do other things in your life, having that control and that influence so you can go do other things that you want to do too. Okay. And so when our identity is tied to our work, when we love to work and it's a big piece of who we are and what we love to do, first of all, you don't get a lot of sympathy from people around you, right? Like I remember I had so many friends who were like, "Hey, you're creating your own madness. Like go to work, come home and, go bowling or, whatever." I mean, I love to bowl, not very good, but you know what I'm saying? And they were like, "Just don't worry about it." And I'm like, "Well, is there something wrong with me?" I'm like, "But I love to work. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't want to kick off work at 5 o'clock all the time. Like, that's just not who I am." Um, I don't mind working on the weekends sometimes. I don't mind working late sometimes. I don't mind traveling, like all of those things that come with a demanding, highly paid, highly successful job. I like those things. But when it's just, hoop, like I used to say, it's like hoop after hoop after hoop after hoop that you're having to jump through just to sort of like keep up. And you get off the red eye and then you slide straight into the office and then straight into the dry cleaners to get your suit cleaned so that you can get on the next red eye the next day. It's like, years and years and years of that pace is like no way to live, right? And that's really where the problem comes in. But what happens, the mistake is our identity is tied to the career. So if I'm successful in my career, I have a successful life. Not really. You have a successful career. That's all you have. And it really took me, going through what I went through of completely walking away from all that, like giving up that identity to recognize, wait a minute, the identity came with me, first of all. I was just as overly ambitious when I was sitting on a beach in the British Virgin Islands as I was in my career. But I also started to realize that, a big part of the problem is when your identity is tied up in your career, a piece of our identity is ego. And ego is not a bad thing. Everybody calm down. Like, I don't have an ego. Sure you do. We all have egos. Ego is another name for esteem. I'll have low esteem. Of course you don't. You're confident. You can get the job done. But what we don't have is a more effective relationship with our career. And it was actually a client who said this to me once. I thought this was so beautiful. She goes, "Kate, I need a new relationship with my career." And I was like, "Oh, that's beautiful." Because that's what it is. It's not about, do you have a career? Do you not have a career? Do you have a big, powerful career? Or do you have a, simplistic, whatever, easy, non-stress career? It's not about leaning in or leaning out, like all these black and white things that are just all or nothing. Stop. That is not going to solve any problems for anybody. Okay. It's about having a new relationship with your career. And for women, we have our relationships tend to be more emotional and we have a lot of emotion tied up. That's why the identity is so powerful for us, because it's like, this is who I am. Like, how many of you guys have ever been sitting in a meeting and someone, snaps at you or cuts you to the quick or, whatever, like someone just says something kind of out of turn and it's directed at you. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I've just gotten slapped in the face. Like this very visceral, like the right, like almost you were like slapped and your cheek turns red, or you might feel it in the stomach, like you just got punched in the gut. Has that ever happened to you? If it has, put like a 1 in the comments. That used to happen to me pretty frequently because that identity, that my career is who I am. And then of course, if someone criticizes you, and this is why as like a high achiever, you get straight A's, but you're upset you didn't get a plus, or you get the 5-star review, but you didn't get the top bonus, or you get the 5-star review and the top bonus, but there was one little piece of improvement they wanted. And you're just like beside yourself. that emotional attachment to the career for us women is so strong that we have to be perfect. All the I's have to be dotted, the T's have to be crossed. We fester about every small thing. That's why it feels like very physical when someone, says something out of turn to you in a meeting. You take it very personally. But then again, we're trying not to take things personally, because as women, there's that double-edged sword of, don't be a girly girl, don't take things personally, don't be one of those girls who cries. Look, ladies, you can't keep working this way. Like we're trying, it's like we're round pegs trying to squeeze ourselves into a square box. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that. Like as a woman, our gifts are the fact that we care, that we're passionate, that we're emotive. Thank God that hasn't been taken away from us. It's been taken away from men. Men aren't allowed to have feelings. It's tragic. That is tragic. Bless their cotton socks, right? If anything, what we need to be doing is leading with emotion to help balance out the guys and help them be more emotional and get more in touch with that. That's what I do when I work with men. I'm always using feeling words. How's that feel? And they're like, oh, but you get them talking and all of a sudden they're like, oh, we can have a human conversation. And you're like, yeah. So the point being is one of the mistakes we're making is that the identity is tied up in the career. And with that identity comes this emotional piece, right? Like this is who I am. And so I always have to be perfect. I always have to get the A++. But I can't wear my emotions on my sleeve, which I agree. Like, we don't need to be walking through the hallways of corporate America sniveling with tissues. But the point being is that you have to know how to process your emotion. Okay. Because when someone, let's just say the hypothetical example, someone says something to you in a meeting and they shoot down your idea, and you're like, oh, and it just feels like you've been, punched in the gut. Then you have to be able to recover from that very quickly, not by ignoring the emotion, not by covering it up, by being able to process and go, okay, what's objectively true about this situation? Because what we try to do is we explain away emotion. Well, they didn't really mean it. Well, I could have done better. Well, and it's like, stop. We have to be able to feel the emotion, recognize that we have this very strong attachment to our career in the form of an identity, our esteem, right? Which is like, yeah, I'm actually capable of having a career. That's where esteem comes in, efficacy. And you have to be able to say, okay, look, emotion is fine. It's just telling me something happened here I need to pay attention to. Let me figure out what that is, allow for the emotion, and then move through it and move on. But typically what we do is one of two things, is we deny the emotion, push it away, because we live in a culture that doesn't allow for emotion, really, and especially in the workplace, or and then in doing so, when we push the emotion away, what happens is then you just start festering because it doesn't go away. It's just like all you've done is like put a lid on it and it's just like bubbling. And then when we get home and we feel safe, we, erupt onto, our kiddos, our dog, our cat, our goldfish, our partners or whatever. Right. And then they have to take the brunt of what's happened for your day, either in the form of having to listen to you, like replay it over and over, which nobody wants to do, right? Or they've got to, or you're sharp and, rude and whatever, mommy dearest and all those things, which don't make us proud, or you're just catatonic. Like you're just like, I'm done. Can't talk to anybody. Everybody leave me alone. It's been a heck of a day. And we go straight to the cheesecake and, the red wine or whatever to sort of take the edge off. None of those things are effective. And that's not giving us quality of life. It's like, no wonder we're burning out, right? Like who wants to go home and be that person, right? So you have to really shift this whole idea that your work is who you are and that to be successful at work is to be successful in life. That's not. Like work is a big piece of your life because you love it. It gives you purpose. It gives you creativity, gives you challenging intellectual stimulation. It gives us some really cool people that we get to work with and some awesome connection, but it's not everything in your life. And when you can start disassociating with that and go, wait a minute, how do I have this thing that's really, really important to me that I love and have this thing that's really important to me that I love, let's just say like a family or connection with your loved ones, and have this other thing that I really love, which is like, health that's going to keep me on this earth, for as long as possible in a way that allows me to move about the earth and, feel good. and maybe at some point in your life do some other things that are interesting, whether it's, be on a board of directors, whether it's angel investing, or whether it's, doing something, for good in your community, whatever that is for you, a hobby, I don't know. That's what success is. Success is the and. Does that make sense? And when you can start tying your identity to that and going, oh, I want to be that type of successful woman, a woman who has this and this and this and this and this, and it's authentic to you, right? Because whatever examples I gave you were hypotheticals, like whatever that is for you, that's success. That feels good. That gives your biology this rush of like, holy heck, I can't believe this is my life. But what we're doing as ambitious women going on, I got to fix my job. I got to fix my job. As soon as my job is okay, as soon as I get my job in order, as soon as I get this promotion in order, as soon as I get my boss in order, as soon as I get my team in order, as soon as blah, 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 then I can go do this other thing. Because our identity is so tied up in the career, and that esteem piece, that emotional piece is tied up in the career. That's what's forcing us in some ways, or compulsing us to not be very nice when we get home, because nobody's going to sit here and say, you know what, my career is more important than my family, and I don't mind treating my family poorly. It's not a problem. Said no woman ever, right? Like, who's going to say that, right? But we act that way, and then we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm doing it. I just did it again. I just yelled at my, kid or whatever. And the reason is that identity, that emotional attachment is so strong, and it is such a deep biological, requirement to feel like you have efficacy in this world, that when it's attached to the career, unfortunately, what it causes us to do is scrimp on everything else, hurt people we love, hurt our health, and eventually hurt ourselves, because then we burn out, hit a wall, and you lose everything that you've wanted and worked so hard for, right? And so when you start reframing that, wait, my identity is this woman who has this and this and this and this, the and is the key piece. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, you know what? Hey, I'll come to that meeting tomorrow, but I can only vote for 30 minutes because I actually have another commitment. And that other commitment could be like picking your kids up to take them to a baseball game or whatever. You know what I mean? Nobody needs to know that. But now all of a sudden that emotional, like, oh yeah, oh, you got a meeting? Gosh, I told my kids I'd take them to a baseball game. Yeah, no, I'll be there. And then it's like, yeah, sorry, kids, I can't, once again, I'm letting you down. That stuff starts to dissipate, especially as you master this and get really, really good at it. That reframing into, oh, this is my identity. This is who I am. That's really powerful. And without breaking, that emotional connection, it's like, that's why, like, if you've ever tried to, you try to put up a boundary, like, from now on, I'm going to leave work at 6, whatever. Or from now on, I'm not going to have my cell phone when I'm playing with my kids. And it works for like a day, or it works for a couple of weeks, or it works for a couple of months. And then before you know it, all that goes out the window. The reason is that emotional attachment, that identity, that connection to work is so big and so powerful that unless you're addressing that emotional piece, I mean, you might as well just like call it in, you know what I mean? Like, you're just going to go back. And it's the same thing like anything, like a diet. Some of the best trainers and dietitians and nutritionists, they work on the emotional attachment that people have to food, right? Because if your attachment to comfort food means community, nurturing, that's where, you grew up with these great connections with your family around the dinner table, eating these yummy, comfort foods. So emotionally, when you tell someone, well, you can no longer have, gravy and all the fixins, they're like, yeah, no, I get it. Like, intellectually, you get it, right? Like, yeah, obviously gravy and fixins means I'm going to gain weight. But that emotional attachment, that gravy and all the fixins are, I sound so Southern, don't I? The fixins, that means you're giving up your family, you're giving up connection, you're giving up the value you had in these family, these experiences. You will force yourself to not have gravy and fixins for, whatever the time that you're working with a nutritionist. But man, the minute that person's not on your back, or the minute that you lose a few pounds, you're right back to gravy and fixins, because your emotional attachment to it is, that means family and community, and who wants to give that up? So that is why the emotional piece is so key. And I didn't get that for a long time, which is why I tried this and I tried this and I tried, I all the like name a strategy, I've tried it. Name a strategy for balance and burnout and getting control of your career. I promise you I've tried it. And that's why all that stuff didn't work, because my emotional attachment to my career was so strong that I would do those things, use a ton of willpower, beat myself up then for not staying on the diet, AKA, and be right back where you start again. That's why that's happening. Does that make sense? Cool. So I hope this has been helpful. We've got one more installment in our series coming up, so stay tuned for that. Look, if you are a highly successful, driven, ambitious woman, and you are burning out, you're thinking of walking away, you know that you cannot sustain the way you're working, I really encourage you to book a call with us. Watch one of our free trainings. We've got some longer, presentations and things that you could watch. Take a listen to that, see if it resonates, book a call with our team, because, one of our coaches can very quickly tell you, if we can help you, if we can't, they'll get you to somebody else, but also what's going on and what's possible for you. It's probably the best 45 minutes you've spent on yourself and your career in a very long time.